Okay, Ford haul truck, part 41. I've got some marks that I'm putting on the floor in reference to the outside rail of the frame. I'm doing that, what I did is just dropped a plumb bob, marked it with a Sharpie, and then went and got some clear paint, and sprayed it so that the marks would stay there. This is in preparation for lengthening the frame. It's all in preparation for lengthening the frame. So in this chapter, I've got some frame rail parts to add into it. I'm going to be looking at the wiring in the sleeper, a little update on that, and some progress that I made on it. And a little work on getting that rear axle up. Probably most of you knew that I got that rear axle up, but let me just throw a couple of clips in on me taking that rear axle out. You can see me jump a little bit as one of them springs pops when I cut the U-bolts off of it. So just a funny little anecdote. But here we go. Okay, I'm over here by the sleeper, and we're going to get into a little bit of the electrical wiring. What I'll do is, after I do this, and I'm going to kind of explain to you what has happened right now, but I will show you some clips of me doing it. I've got the refrigerator sitting over here on the mill. I took the refrigerator out just to see if it worked. And what it did is presented a problem. It does work. I'll show you a clip of it. But what happened is I could have been probing that refrigerator, and because of the way it's positioned inside of the sleeper and kind of back into it and how quiet it is, I would have never known that it worked. So one of the other things that I did in the quest to probe those wires in there and find out what works and what goes where and why it, well, not why it goes there, but what goes where with the wiring. I took a charger for the gimbal on this camera and plugged it into some of the 12-volt outlets. And what I did was found the power supply for the 12-volt outlets. Up in here, you can see I've got it marked, because what I did, as I plugged the charger into it and was testing it, I could see that the charger turned on. So that led me to think, you know, if I had some kind of a buzzer or bell, something. So what I did is I went to Napa, I got a backup alarm, and what I'm going to do is hook that to the leads, either through an elevator clip, a wire if it's encased in a I don't know whether you'll be able to see it, but you know, if I've got a plug type thing, what I'll do is take a bare wire and just stick it into the plug off of that backup alarm. And when I probe it with my power probe, then I will be able to hear the backup alarm come on. So that'll give me something. So it all got inspired by this refrigerator. You know, I took the refrigerator out, and the damn thing works, but it's so quiet that I would have never heard it back in that compartment, back in that refrigerator compartment. So I still don't know what lead goes to it. All I do know is it works. So what I'll do, I'll take that backup alarm, hook it up to those leads that feed the refrigerator plug, and when I find the lead that powers it, then I'll know. So, and I'll do that try and do that with the rest of the stuff on it. So, but I'll show you throw a couple of clips in there. One of me getting the refrigerator working, or finding out the refrigerator worked, and some clips of me screwing around with the lights too. So I'm over here to the sleeper again. what I've done is pull the refrigerator out. I actually put the contacts on it and fired it up. It does work. Now, if I can only figure out the wiring, the reason I kind of took the refrigerator out was hoping that I could find the wiring harness behind it, the main wiring harness. And I'm still perplexed by this damn wiring in this sleeper. And it's starting to look more and more and more like I'm going to have to tear the paneling off to get to figuring out what goes where. I was kind of hoping that I could get to it by some of it by removing the refrigerator, but that was for not. Okay, so here is the refrigerator opening, the part. This lead goes to the refrigerator, and I've got to assume that those 3 leads that you see back there, the one laying going across the bottom of the refrigerator opening, and those 2 that come down to the side, supply this. But again, this panel is wired so close to that thing that I can't really pull it out to see what's going on with the thing. I'm not really sure. I was kind of thinking there was insulation going back in there, but I'm sorry, a wire going back in there, but I guess not. Here is the wire for those lights, though. Maybe I can find that. I'm going to keep searching. Keep going, keep searching. I've got to clean out this closet, and you know, maybe I'll pull those screws out of that back panel of the closet, the padding of the closet, and see if there's anything back there. I'll bring you back. Okay, we're in the sleeper, and what I've decided to do is take some of this trim work off. So I'm going to be doing that, looking to see what wires are run where. One of the things that I could never do is get this fluorescent fixture to work. So one of the things I'm going to do is pull that off and see what's going on with that. Holy shit, are those screws long enough? A little bit of overkill there. If that camera seems to be bouncing, I've got it set on that bed, so I've got to get a different size screwdriver. So what I was saying before, if that camera seems to be bouncing, I've got the tripod set up on the bed and on top of the mattress, and it might be wiggling around a little bit every time I bump into it. Bump into the mattress, that is. Bulbs look kind of shot. Let me pull this one out. So one of the things that I was looking for as I pulled this refrigerator out was this wiring harness. I'm not really sure. I haven't pulled out the panels out of that bottom closet yet to see how it's fed in there. It does go across through here, not exposed, but it's actually above this panel here. So I would have to pull that panel out to get to the wiring harness. But hopefully now that I have that bell buzzer, backup alarm, I can do this without having to get into the wiring harness. Hopefully it's all going to become clear now, and I don't have to get into the wiring harness. So, you know, I guess I just got to go ahead and hook it up. I still have to pull it out because I've got to get I'm going to put a backup camera. Let's not call it a backup. Well, let's call it a backup camera. It's a camera that's going to go in the back of the sleeper. And so that I can see behind the sleeper, basically, mainly for positioning the truck in relationship to the hitch on the gooseneck trailer. I've got to get it. It's the gooseneck trailer hitch is not like a pin on a fifth wheel where it, you know, you have a V, kind of get it lined up and it will fall in because there's a V notch into the fifth wheel plate that allows you to be off a little bit and it to pull over and glide in so that the pin latches into the fifth wheel plate. That's not the way with a gooseneck. You have to be kind of right on. So I will be continuing on this, and I'll let you know how I make out as things progress. Let me just tell you, I was in the back here. What I did is rigged that rear axle. I've got the frame up on jack stands to begin with, if you can see that. I have the frame up on jack stands, and I rigged the rear axle up off of the gantry crane. What I tried to do is get the U-bolts off. Now, the U-bolts on the back are rusted a lot more than they were on the front. So I tried to put the 1/2 inch cordless impact on it and it wouldn't touch it. So I got the 3/4 inch out and I got one bolt to come off about half a turn. But that's all I got. I've only actually worked on the 2 bolts, 2 nuts on the back side of this side. But I'm to the point now, I kind of looked it up on ATS, which is Auto Truck Spring website, and they do have the U-bolts. Now, I'm not exactly positive what them U-bolts are because they are so deteriorated. I'm positive that they're pretty sure, not positive, pretty sure that they're 3/4 inch, 3 1/16 inch spacing, which I found 3/4 inch, 3 1/16, and 14 3/8 inches long. So at this point in time, what I'm going to do, it's got to come off regardless of the fact. I'm just going to take the torch, I'm going to go over and get the torch, set it up, and just cut them off. I could cut them off with a Sawzall, but I got to tell you, it's going to be just a lot easier to do it with the torch. I'll bring you back when I do it. Apparently pressure in there. Did I jump when that happened? I'm just going to insert this little clip here. Some people might think I kind of overreacted to those things popping off like that, but my reaction is kind of indicative of where I was in trade. I spent 47 years in the fire protection business, and a lot of that time was rigging up lifts and pipe for lifts, cranes, stuff like that. We lifted pipe up to a 22-story building on a crane, and on chokers, nylon chokers, and had pipe slide out of it. So, you know, you kind of always tend to remember the bad things that happen, so you're always conscious of it. One time, not rigging, but one time I was in a building, and it was a post-tension precast building. We were given locations for the tensioning rods, or tensioning cables, and we were core drilling a hole in it. It was a big parking garage, and we were up on the 6th floor of it, and we were core drilling a hole in it and hit one of those cables. And when that thing snapped, I thought the friggin' world was coming to an end. The whole building shook. So because of that, you're always in the back of your mind when you're cutting something that's under tension and having springs on it, even though the springs were relaxed and the thing was down, you're always conscious of it. So when shit like that happens, it kind of makes you jump. But I just thought I'd throw that in there. Okay, I'm going to switch sides. I'm going to switch you over to the other side. I'm going to switch my torch over to the other side too. One thing you might notice is I put a jack chain under the hub. The reason why I did it is because these axles are offset. This one over here is longer than the one over on the other side. So Okay, Ford F750 haul truck series. I shot basically the same video in a shop update of January 21st, but I also wanted to show it what I was doing in the haul truck series, because there could be people that watch the haul truck series that don't watch the shop updates. What I've got is a square sitting on the back of the axle where the springs will mount, where the outside of the spring will be. And I've got the rim on here to show me the relationship of where the rim tire will be in relationship to those springs. Because the spring goes up in the front, and what I'm going to be doing is coming out the back and putting some form of a airbag or air suspension system on the rear of the truck. Now, why I'm doing this is because the airbag on most airbags on trucks are between 8 and 10 inches in diameter. So I need to know how the airbag system has to fit onto here so that it doesn't interfere with the tire or rim of the wheel. I'm a viewer of mine, Brian, told me that I should go and get a air suspension system off in a salvage yard off of another truck and make that. He didn't like my idea of, well, maybe not liking is the wrong term. Thought it would be better if I used the prefabricated air suspension system off of a truck. But the problem that I have is, not only do I have to get it to fit the axle, I also have to get it to fit around this wheel tire combination. So I need to know those spacings. So when I do go to the salvage yard. Okay, just another quick insert. I have been to the salvage yard. I picked up some frame rail for the truck extension, or the frame extension on the truck. And I will put that in after I do these clips on the air suspension on the rear axle. I was to the salvage yard, picked them things up, but we are going through that cold spell and snow. So I wasn't about to go out and dig through 2 feet of snow at below zero temperatures to find the rear suspension, or try and look for a rear suspension that would adapt to my application. So I'm dedicated. Dedication is one thing, not fucking nuts. I kind of have a rough idea of what I need and the offset it has to be to get that airbag away from the tire wheel combination. And let me take you over to the truck and I will show you that part of it too. So here we are behind the truck now, and here is a rear leaf spring bracket. Well, the rear of the rear leaf spring bracket. And as you can see, the axle's been dropped down on the floor, and it's kind of pretty close to center. But what I would have to do is try and find something that offsets away from that wheel a little bit, and maybe comes up so that I can support the top of the bag underneath the frame rail. If I can't find something like that, or can't do that, what I'm going to have to do is build another bracket across there, across the frame rails in the rear here, to support the top of the airbags on both sides, because I've got to get that offset over to get it away from the wheel tire combination. But anyways, that's just something that I'm looking at right now. I need to keep those figures kind of in the rear of my mind so that I know if I go to a salvage yard and try and look for one off of a existing truck to fit onto here, what it has to, the offset has to be to get it over there. And two, if I can't find something that will adapt to this, if I build my own, I still need to know what the offset has to be so that I could get it underneath the frame rail. See, kind of what my thought is right now is I'm very doubtful that I'm going to find one that's going to offset exactly enough to get the airbag underneath the frame rail. So I'm kind of thinking of my original idea of building the damn thing myself and just adding on to the leaf spring. What I would do is cut that leaf spring off past center, back past center, and extend that shim plate out to hold the airbag. Now, it wouldn't be able to go out straight. It would probably have to rise up and then angle over to offset that airbag so that it was underneath the frame so that I could mount the top of the airbag underneath the frame. But anyways, that's what I'm doing right now. I'll jot these measurements down, and when I go to the salvage yard, I will know what I'm talking about or know what I'm looking for. Okay, I just came back from the salvage yard and I got two pieces of frame rail. They cut them a little longer. They're about 29, 28 inches long. So I was looking for 2 feet, so that'll be good. Now, they look in rough shape, but once I get them cleaned up, get all that junk off of them, I'll put them in the blast cabinet and blast them off, and once I do that, they'll look a lot better. So they are the exact same size as the frame rail on my truck, so that's a good thing. So what I'm going to have to do is go through the process of setting up the truck to get ready for splitting that back off and doing that. So it's going to be a little bit of a process. Let me take you over there and we'll talk about it for a second. Okay, we're over here to the truck, and as I had put in a previous clip, I got those pieces of frame rail that I'm going to be putting in here. Now, I still have to get, I'm going to double rail it, or have a piece bent up to put a piece in here inside of the rails on each side, like a gusset that's going to go past the piece that I'm adding into the frame rail, so that it will be bolted on the inside of each frame rail, each side of the frame rail. I'm sorry, each side, driver's and passenger side. On the inside, it'll be bolted on as a gusset to go past it. What I'm kind of thinking about doing is going a foot past it either way. So I've got a 2-foot piece basically, so the piece will be 4 feet long and bolted into the frame on each side, on the near side and far side of the splice, and bolted there, and the splice will also be bolted to this gusset. But kind of why I brought you over here is, again, there was the back of the sleeper, the back of the skirting on it. So that's what I would have had beforehand sticking back, and now with the extension, this is what I'll have afterwards. So it will look a lot better. So what I did is kind of measured the wheelbase of the truck. The original wheelbase was 176 inches. I'm adding 2 feet, so it's going to be 200 inches now, which isn't excessive. I mean, it's still fairly short with relationship to trucks. I mean, semis with sleepers are up in the 200 range, 220s, 240s, 260s, 280s, depending on the size of the sleeper. But so I do realize that I'm going to be able to, or I'm going to lose a little bit of a turning radius, but I want that extra space, not only for looks, but also for the ability to get some more stuff in the back here, mainly toolboxes, equipment stuff back here. It'll give me more room to get air tanks, stuff like that that's got to go on the truck back here also. Okay, so here I am back over the welding bench. This is after the frame rails had been cut, and I took them over and bead blasted them. I really didn't do the inside real good. I was more concerned about the outside that will be exposed, but here they are. I've got to call out to a friend of mine to find out a supplier for bending pieces that will go into here. So until I hear from them, I'm going to do some layout on the floor, but I'm probably going to get those pieces bought, bent, and put in there to kind of use as a guide to help establish that the frame is running parallel and straight and true, along with some other means, lines, string lines or chalk lines on the floor to make sure everything is running good.